anytime the cute cyberpunk is mentioned, even though in reality we'd be totally obviously from to Amazon books. That reading feeling. Dear Taylor, I am the book with the book about book things and I started driving one and suddenly I love traffic. Rush hour is my happy place. Feeling on top of the world. This is strange for me. Who gets excited about traffic? This is on you, Toyota. And Sabotage.
The captivating Toyota Crown family. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Nick Chubb, running back with Cleveland Browns. Holidays get really busy for me, but I still want to pull up to events looking nice. Abercrombie's latest drop, Party Looks, is taking me through the season. For dinner with the fam, treats with the guys, and even New Year's Eve, they have outfits for every occasion. I'm mainly a jeans and t-shirt guy, but Abercrombie has the dress fits that keep me comfortable. Shop Abercrombie for every night out.
Welcome to the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. Now get ready for Strange Things with Joshua P. Moore.
Welcome to our podcast. Please be aware the thoughts and opinions expressed by the host are their thoughts and opinions only and do not reflect those of iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio, Coast to Coast AM, employees of Premier Networks, or their sponsors and associates. We would like to encourage you to do your own research and discover the subject matter for yourself.
You can do at home, and a lot more on this edition of the show. Aliens. Who are the tall whites? Sometimes on this show, I challenge myself and try to tell a story that is so weird and vast and unbelievable that it's very difficult to capture in one podcast. Well, this is one of those stories. I've known about this topic for years, but I've never quite been able to tackle it because even though there is a lot of detailed information out there, the information is kind of all over the place. And gathering the basic kernels in the story has taken me a long time. Reading through books and articles, watching videos, listening to interviews, and I am not going to pretend that I know everything. In fact, that is far from the truth. And I'm sure I'm going to leave out a lot of great information or get some elements mixed up. But by the end of the show, you should have the fundamentals and enough basic information for you to understand the gist of this incredible story and be able to pursue it for yourself if you want more accurate details. It's one of those that does not automatically fit nicely into a particular category at first, but by the time all is said and done, the alien folder in the filing cabinet seems just fine. So I guess that's my disclaimer as I now proceed with trying to capture the essence of this wild story for you. Here we go. You probably know that I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I did an episode of this show. If you've not heard this episode, you can go back and listen to episode 72. Okay, this is a while back. It was called One of the Wildest Stories I Have Ever Heard. And then it was sort of subtitled Liquid Mercury. And this, for me to say one of the wildest stories I've ever heard, I think that you would agree that's saying wrong. There is this small military town Las Vegas called Mercury, Nevada. And you and I cannot go there. And if you get onto, your Google Maps or whatever your direction app is you like, and you type in Mercury, Nevada, it will show up most likely on your app. But if you ask for directions to go there, it'll say, nope, sorry, you can't go there. That's what I'm betting it's going to tell you. And that is because this is a town that is populated by people working on top secret projects, and we don't know what they're doing. And I'm not going to take time to recap this, but years ago, this very respected, credible scientist here in Las Vegas told me that they're doing experiments in Mercury, Nevada using liquid mercury, and that one of the most bizarre things they've done is somehow figure out how to turn liquid mercury into a living, conscious being. And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah. I said, what do you mean? And he said, they've created this creature that looks sort of like a glowing bunny. Yeah, a bunny rabbit. And then sometimes it escapes from the facility and runs around the hills and the mountains, and they have to send out teams to capture it and bring it back. That's just the tip of the iceberg, trust me. If you have not listened to episode 72, go listen to that. Because what I'm going to tell you in this show may kind of sort of tie into that facility and what's going on. And then, of course, also years ago, I was working on a TV show with my friend Steve Barone, documents all kinds of strange UFOs here in the Las Vegas Valley. He has a YouTube channel called Anomalous Vegas. You should definitely check it out. He's got some stunning footage there. And Steve Barone, I was on his deck one night, and he was pointing out different areas where he'd been filming UFOs, and he pointed out one particular area, and he goes, yes, that's the direction that where they see the tall whites. And I don't think I heard that term back until then. I said, who are the tall whites? And he says, oh, they're these big, tall, white alien beings that kind of glow and they run around the desert and show off. All right, so here's where all this sort of begins for you and me. There is this book that was published in 2002 by a man named Charles James Hall. I have it in my hand right now. It's heavy. It's about 500 pages. And this is just book one in a series of 6 books. The book is called Millennial Hospitality. Millennial Hospitality. And when this book was published, it says in the cover area there, the copyright page, this is just a work of fiction. But then the author came out afterward and said that that's not true. He just said that to sort of cover his what. That actually everything in this book is absolutely true, except for changing some of the people's names and such. This man, Charles James Hall, was born in Wisconsin. I believe, I'm not sure, I think he was born in 1944. And at the age of 20 in 1964, he joined the U.S. Air Force. And then in 1965, he was sent to Nellis Air Force Base right outside of Las Vegas. It's kind of interesting to keep in mind that everything I'm about to tell you supposedly happened before we had even gone to the moon. We didn't go to the moon until 1969, and this story really starts for us in 1965, 4 years before that. So he goes to Nellis Air Force Base, which is north of Las Vegas, and apparently he is given the opportunity to become what they call a weather observer, meaning that you get your own truck and you drive out into the desert at night and just sit there all night with the radio by yourself, and you give first-hand weather reports to the base, because I guess when you're out there, they do all kinds of testing, and you wouldn't believe the experiments they do in this part of the desert. They're not going to just rely on the TV weatherman for the stuff they're doing. You need individuals there who can say, I'm here, here's what's happening. And he liked the idea of being a weather observer because you didn't have some officer breathing down your neck or whatever, and you're a lot of solace, so he was happy to take this job. But he found out that in the past 7 years, 41 men had already quit. They quit that post because they were terrified by some of the things that they started seeing out there in the desert at night. So here was Charles Hall, I guess the 42nd man to have this post. They sent him to an area known as the Indian Springs Gunnery Range. Now, for those of you who are interested in the layout here, and maybe you're kind of familiar with the area, let me just explain to you sort of where this is. So, again, here we are. Las Vegas is the center of all this, and imagine that just north of Las Vegas, there are two roads that fork out upwards in different directions like a giant V shape. So if you take the V shape to the east and then north up to Rachel on what's called US 93, well, that's where we have a little alien, and that's where I own some land. But if you take that branch to the west and then the north on US 95, well, that takes you toward Mercury, Nevada. And you'll pass Indian Springs on the way there. So these two roads heading north, again, they're kind of like a big V shape. Imagine that all the land between them contains some of the most secret government test sites and laboratories in the world, including Area 51. So it's Area 51 and all that stuff is sort of sandwiched in between those two roads. So his weather station was out there toward Mercury. I mean, only about, from what I can tell, probably 12 or 13 miles from Mercury, I think. And the first time he was being driven out there, one of his colleagues was talking to him about his job at this weather observation post. And he brought up something extreme. Charles Hall, you better be careful out there because you might see range for Harry. Let me repeat that. Range, like a shooting range. Range for Harry. Well, he says, what the heck is range for Harry? Okay, here we go. Range for Harry is this creature, this being, this entity that is incredibly dangerous. You do not want to get near range for Harry, I promise you. When we come back from this break, I'm going to tell you what range for Harry is, and that is going to kick off this whole gigantic saga. It's one of the weirdest stories that I've ever heard, so I'm pretty sure it's one of the weirdest ones you've ever heard. And you know what? There are a lot of podcasts out there, but there's no other podcast quite like this one. It's a free show. If you like it, please support it. If you want me to keep doing it, support the show by going to my website, joshuapwarren.com. While you're there, go to the Curiosity Shop, buy something unique, something interesting that you won't find anywhere else in the world. Buy something cool for yourself or for a loved one, somebody who just needs, somebody who will appreciate something that's going to maybe make their lives a little more magical. And also while you're there, please go to the homepage and sign up for my free and spam-free e-newsletter. It comes directly from me, typed with my own fingers. And when you sign up for that, you will instantly receive an automated email from me that has links to some free online goodies, like a good luck charm, some money manifestation tips, all that stuff at joshuapwarren.com. I am Joshua P. Warren, and you're listening to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. And I'll be right back.
The holidays are officially here at the Home Depot, which means it's time to deck the halls and your home with festive cheer. If you're on the hunt for the perfect tree, we've got you covered. Explore our huge assortment of trees in all shapes, sizes, and styles. Designed to fit any holiday vibe and every holiday budget, like the Jackson Milton Fir. It's not only super easy to assemble, but it also comes pre-lit with 1,200 color-changing bulbs and multiple lighting functions. Or maybe the flocked Starry Night Glacier Fir is more your style. With over 1,900 pre-lit member wire branches that hold their shape, this tree's ready to shine right out of the box. Whether it's trees, leaves, or twinkling lights, we've got everything you need to make your home holiday ready. So shop now at HomeDepot.com and enjoy free
this is a guy who was very well aware of how things work in the military when he published this book in 2002 about what he experienced over a couple of years, starting in 1965 out there in the desert. So I've got the book in my hands. I want to read to you this passage, a couple passages, because as I told you, he has this buddy who's driving him out there to his weather observation post. And his buddy says to him, you know, Charlie Summer's coming on, old Harry, he might start coming out again. He hides up in the mountains during the winter time, but he always comes out on warm summer evenings. You're sure to see him. Both the Major and I, we really want to know what he is. Range 4 Harry, I asked. You got me there. I've never heard of him. Never heard of him, Charlie? The guy answered. His name was Dwight. He said, Range 4 Harry is supposedly a horse that got too close to an atomic bomb blast that was set off way up at Frenchman Flats back in 1954. It was right after the blast that people started seeing him. He's been down here out on the range 4 ever since. The radiation burned him real bad, so he used supplements, but on warm summer nights he comes down into the valley and roams the number 4 range up at Mojave Wells. He goes on to describe him. He says, one side of him glows in a soft fluorescent white. No one knows what the other side of him looks like. Everyone who has tried to walk around him and look at him from the other side has gotten burned pretty bad or attacked. Either way, they all come back scared stiff. If you see him, don't ever try to walk up in front of him and look in his face. Harry doesn't want anyone to see his face. The few people who have seen him from the front say his face is human-like, but very unusual. He is said to have large blue eyes and his head is real large, and they say his face looks sort of like the face of a horse, and his tail is made of long blonde hair. Now, of course, at this point, Charles Hall thinks maybe he's being hazed or something like that. He said this sounded like some kind of a make-believe story they would pull on the new guy for fun. And he keeps, his colleague says, no, I'm serious. He says, I actually saw it. So did the Major. So Charlie says, okay, well, tell me again, what does he look like? What did you see? And this guy named Dwight says, well, he gave off a soft fluorescent white light. The light hurts your eyes when you look into it, even though the light isn't very bright. He didn't make any sound when he moved. He was about a quarter of a mile off when he was close. He came from the northwest up along the mountains, and then when he left, he went back up there from where he came. He goes on to talk about this other military guy who had been out there. I'm not sure if he was one of those guys working the weather post or what, but he got pretty close to what they think was Range 4 Harry. Dwight says when he got there, he stopped his truck, got out. He thought he was hallucinating at first. He said this thing was sitting on a large rock 10 feet or so above him. He said it looked like a thin human, all white, chalk white, had blonde hair and blue eyes, looked down at him sort of the way a horse might look down at him. As I understand what happened next, the man, Jackson, looked at it and said, go away. And the white thing looked at him and said to him in English, I am as real as you are. And then Jackson said, well, I have a name. My name is Airman First Class Jackson. If you're so real, what is your name? And the white thing responded, you may call me Range 4 Harry. Nobody seems to know exactly why that is, by the way. But he was told, Range 4 Harry's real, and if you go out there after him, he'll burn you, just like he burned John Zimmerman 2 years ago. Zimmerman got a medical discharge because of it. Now, let me jump ahead a little bit, because Charles Hall said that he went to the base for his routine medical checkup. And it turns out he actually knew the receptionist in the medical office. In fact, they had once danced together. And she actually told him, be careful out there, because you don't want to get a burn from, that thing. And he says, what are you talking about? She says, let me show you. She pulls out a file, and she showed some x-rays and actual photographs of this guy who had gotten too close to range for Harry. And he said it looked like the guy had a Hiroshima burn. He said it looked like his left arm had been cooked by a microwave. Some of the other guys in the mess hall had started telling Charles that Harry wasn't the only thing out there. A lot of people have seen some kind of aliens that they say have dug their way into the mountain and had a base out there, and he'd see for himself soon enough. They called them the Tall Whites. Said they would sometimes gather around a spring out in the desert at night and basically have picnics. Sometimes they even slept in hammocks. It all sounded absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, you can imagine what all is going on in this man's mind. I mean, it's spooky enough being out there in the desert by yourself anyway. So finally, he got out there in the desert one night doing his job. And for a while, he never saw anything unusual. And one night, he started seeing these glowing sort of phosphorescent forms. And he goes, oh. Let me go back to the book and read you what he writes about that. There came into my view one of the most stunning sights I have ever seen. There, down along the fence, were the two soft white fluorescent patches. Both were standing as tall as possible, floating about 18 inches above the desert and drifting towards me perhaps as fast as 10 miles per hour. The top of the tall one in front may possibly have reached as much as 8 feet off the desert, and as soon as I saw them, they both stooped over and turned towards the paved road and again disappeared out of sight behind some buildings. So he is freaking out because he's seeing these glowing things that are kind of moving around. He goes on to say, there, huddling in the ditch, no more than 100 feet from me, were these two white fluorescent patches. They were obviously beings of great intelligence, and obviously beings with an extremely advanced technology. At last, I understood what had terrified Sullivan, the weather observer before me, Dwight the Major, and the others. I also understood why the observers before me would never have come out into the desert alone. He goes into a lot of detail about how these things look. At one point, he says he doesn't want to go toward them, but he's frozen, and they start coming toward him. And he says he can only explain this as some kind of a telepathy, that he starts looking at them as they're getting closer, and he's thinking to them, slowly, calmly, I will not harm you, I will not harm anyone. And then, he said, then it happened, a thought appeared in my brain, and it was calm, clear, and it appeared slowly, at about half the rate that I normally think. There was no mistaking it. It came from the man figure, and it said, I know, and you have not been harmed. So then, they kind of start having this telepathic communication. And they start, I'd love to sit here and read this whole book to you, but basically, they kind of just like mind each other's business, and he gets a better look at these things, and this is the beginning of them starting to approach him more. So at this point, let me tell you what they look like. Generally, these beings that are roaming around out there, they're usually around 6 feet tall and thin, but they keep growing as they age. And they can live to be around 800 years old and can end up being 9 feet tall or taller. They also grow frail as they age. Their entire body, flesh and clothing is white as a piece of paper, he said. They often have long white hair and the most piercing, bright blue eyes you've ever seen. They have that white glow around them that is difficult to describe. And to me, they really look like tall, thin, white grays. You know, the gray aliens. They look like tall, thin, because he actually has had some artwork done. He worked with an artist to make some paintings. To me, they look like really tall, thin white grays with a small nose, small mouth. Again, long white hair. I'm sure if you get online and you search for the tall whites at Coast to Coast AM, you'll probably find a picture. When they speak to each other, he said it sounds like birds chirping or a dog barking. And sometimes when they speak to each other, you don't really hear any sounds, and it almost looks as if they're being telepathic. But he got the impression that sometimes they were just using noises that were either too high or too low for the human ear to hear. He said they have hearing as good as a dog and vision as good as a cat. And some obviously learned to speak English and could converse with military personnel. When we come back, I'm going to tell you more about these beings, including where they came from, perhaps, and why they are here. I'm Joshua P. Warren. You're listening to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. And I will be back after these important messages.
The holidays are officially here at the Home Depot, which means it's time to deck the halls and your home with festive cheer. If you're on the hunt for the perfect tree, we've got you covered. Explore our huge assortment of trees in all shapes, sizes, and styles. Designed to fit any holiday vibe and every holiday budget, like the Jackson Noble Fir. It's not only super easy to assemble, but it also comes pre-lit with 1,200 color-changing bulbs and multiple lighting functions. Or maybe the flocked Starry Light Fraser fir is more your style. With over 1,900 pre-lit memory wire branches that hold their shape, this tree's ready to shine right out of the box. Whether it's trees, wreaths, or twinkling lights, we've got everything you need to make your home holiday ready. So shop now at HomeDepot.com and enjoy free delivery on most holiday decor. Subject to availability, see HomeDepot.com/delivery for details.
Hi, I'm Cindy Crawford, and I'm the founder of Meaningful Beauty. Well, I don't know about you, but I never liked being told, oh wow, you look so good for your age. Like, why even bother saying that? Why don't you just say you look great at any age, every age? That's what Meaningful Beauty is all about. We create products that make you feel confident in your skin at the age you are now. Meaningful Beauty, beautiful skin at every age. Learn more at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jared Goff, quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Holidays get busy, but I still want to pull through events to support you guys. Abercrombie's latest drop of party books is taking you through the season. For date nights, hang with the guys, and even New Year's Eve, they have outfits for every occasion. I'm big on shorter polos and trousers with a wool blend coat over top. For those really fancy holiday events, Abercrombie has suiting options too. Shop Abercrombie for every night out.
Celebrate Thanksgiving with unbeatable savings at Macy's. Right now, get your frozen turkey for only 69 cents a pound when you spend $50 or more.
Alright, this is where I say goodbye. See you later.
Whether you're hosting a big family gathering or an intimate
I will
feast,
put the
Macy's
rest
has
on
everything
later.